Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's English First Additional Language session. My name is Marina Seeley. This lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Saibono Discovery Centre. Today we are dealing with the essay. Now, you know that you have three different types of creative writing activities. You've got the essay, the transactional text that we dealt with last week, and then we also have the shorter transactional text. Today we are going to stop and look at the essay in more detail, since you might be busy with task 3. You might be in the planning phase, you might be in the writing phase. This will just give you a good recap and revision on what you've done last year. So in this lesson, we will revisit the following: the different essay writing genres. We are going to look at how to approach answering the essay question. We are also going to look at editing and proofreading. Now let's take a look at the writing process. This is a quick recap. While we do it, it also indicates the different ways in which you can plan. The first one would be the list or taking notes. In this case, when you get your question paper or your task, you read the topics carefully. Then you choose the best one you want to write about. You don't take the easiest one. You take the one that you will be able to answer best. Then you brainstorm the topic. What does that mean again? You write down as many different thoughts that come into your head as possible. You don't have to worry that they make sense or that they fit together. Remember, this is just allowing your brain free rein to write down anything that comes to mind when it thinks about that specific topic. After that, you plan the content. So you look at everything that you've written down and you put them together. So you look at the different things that you wrote down and you try to put them into groups. In other words, sort them. Put the same kind of ideas together. Then you put those together in paragraphs. So if you have words or phrases, you can write them in sentences, elaborate. Remember that every paragraph is a new idea. And then you only write the essay. After that, you will proofread and edit. Let's take a look at another way of looking at the writing process. You select the topic. Here you can brainstorm. You can use a mind map. You can use a flow chart. You can also use notes as we have done in the previous slide. Then you organize your ideas, arrange them and organize them into paragraphs. Next follows the draft. You might be used to writing the first draft. Actually, it's just the draft. And that is when you put all your ideas together in your paragraphs, in your sentences, which would finally make your essay. Then you revise. And when you revise, you proofread and edit. To proofread means to read through your essay to make sure that it makes sense. Editing would refer to correcting spelling errors, grammatical errors. Here you might also want to choose a better word, or if you have used one word too often, you might opt to change out the word for something else with basically the same meaning. So that is when you edit. And then you write your final essay and try and write it without any errors. Of course, there might slip in one or two, but then it would be improved from your first draft. And by the way, you only write your first draft to make sure that you can eradicate any errors. Do not copy your first draft into the final. That has no use whatsoever. So an essay is a piece of writing in which a writer expresses his or her point of view on a specific topic given, or narrates, in other words, tells a story based on experiences, personal or the experiences of other people. An essay should have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. You might remember in the first presentation, I loved to refer to the sandwich effect. It gives a brief explanation of each of the following concepts or parts of the essay. First of all, the introduction. The introduction should catch the reader's attention. It's like a hook. It must be striking and entice. In other words, kind of invite the reader to continue reading. Let's take a look at the body. The body refers to the content of the essay. The body must be divided into different paragraphs. In other words, you have to leave a line open between every paragraph. each of which must have a main idea with supporting details. And then your conclusion. The conclusion rounds off your essay. In other words, it basically comes full circle. And this should effectively tie up all that was presented by the writer in the introduction and in each of the paragraphs. Another way of placing or showing the structure of the essay is you should capture the reader's attention so that the reader will want to continue reading. It's like a hook. It must be short and catchy. And therefore, you won't start an essay with, in this essay, I want to tell you about. You jump right into it. Your introductory sentence should actually make the reader gasp and want to read on. The body is the meat of your essay, in other words, the content. Usually you will write about 3 or sometimes 4 paragraphs, each containing a topic sentence, your main idea, and an explanation of this in each paragraph. Ensure that there's a logical sequence of thoughts. Finally, in the conclusion, you sum up your essay effectively with a conclusion. Link the information contained in the previous paragraphs to the introduction. Let's take a look at the essay writing genres. Now, that refers to the different types of essays. A narrative essay is there to entertain or to tell a story, written in the past tense, but convincing. A descriptive essay is to describe something, someone, in a vivid manner. The reflective essay gives emotional reaction and feeling on a specific matter, personal, or something expressed by a friend, expressing feelings of sincerity. Then an argumentative essay, and that is the one that most people choose, to argue a case for one side of a point, to convince your reader of your opinion, and it is usually written in the present tense. The discursive essay is a little different from the argumentative one. It presents opposing views impartially. What that means, it shows both sides of an argument. Now, your essay will be marked according to a rubric, and I trust your teacher has already shared the rubric with you and mediated it with you. In other words, before you complete your task 3, you need to visit the rubric and make sure that your content actually aligns with the content or the descriptors, the assessment descriptors in the rubric. Now, the criteria are as follows: content and planning, which makes out 60% of the mark, and that would amount to 30. Then the language, style, and editing, which would amount to 30%, which is 15. And then the remaining 5 would refer to structure, the 10%. And that gives you a total of 50. So when you write and plan your essay, remember that this is what the assessment criteria that you are going to be assessed on. Let's take a look at the genres in closer detail. The narrative essay, and that is the common one that most people want to write, and that is telling a story. It is usually written in the past tense. It tells a story, or it tells of a past event. It does not have to be a true story or based on your life experience. This is where you can get fully creative. The storyline, though, must be convincing. And the biggest mistake that writers make is to write an essay a narrative essay, a story, in other words, without a clear plot or clear characters or without conflict. The introduction should be captivating. In other words, like any other essay, the reader must go, "Oh, I wonder what's going to happen next." It must hook the reader into carrying on. Ensure that the ending is satisfying, confusing, but never predictable. Ensure that the essay has a strong descriptive element. And here I want to emphasize that you will never write a true narrative without description. You will never write a true descriptive essay without adding some narration or, to an extent, some reflection. So let's take a look at the pictures, and this is a line graph. The hook, that is a situation to stir interest immediately, and that is when you start your essay, the introduction. Exposition, that's a big word for the introduction to the story, and this includes the primary characters' names and the background. In other words, the who, what, when, where, and why. Followed by conflict, and that is a situation preventing success. Conflict would refer to conflict between two characters, which is usually what happens in a narrative essay with a length of 250 to 300 words, because it must be short and to the point. You can't write a book, can't write a novel. It has to be limited, because remember, you must try to keep within the limit of words, 250 to 300 words. You will get the rising action, and that refers to all the events that leads to the climax. There must also be suspense. There's nothing as bad as a narrative essay that is not going anywhere. You will find that you would often describe a situation. It was a specific day, and you woke up, and you got coffee, and you didn't know what to wear. Everything leads up to something, but you don't quite get to the conflict, the situation, the problem, in other words. You can also make use of flashbacks. Now, a flashback refers to past events. In other words, you can start your essay at the end of the story, and then through flashbacks refer to events that led up to where you are currently. The climax is the most exciting point of your essay, creating the turning point in the plot. I often refer to the rubber band effect. If you take a rubber band and you turn it, working up the coils to a point where that rubber band must break, that is your climax. And in a story, all of the suspenseful rising action works up to that point where something has got to give. So the problem needs to be solved. And that refers to the falling action, where the tension is released after the climax and the story moves towards its conclusion. The resolution would refer to the outcome of the story. It is how things end up or turn out for the characters. And that is that happily ever after moment. Of course, it doesn't have to be happily ever after, but who doesn't like a happily ever after? An example of how a narrative essay may be introduced is, it was a dark and stormy night. The rain fell in torrents, except at occasional intervals when it was checked by a violent gust of a wind which swept up the streets, rattling along the housetops and fiercely agitating the scanty flame of the lamps that struggled against the darkness. You create a mood, And that is what you want, because this is the setting on which you will base your action. I want you to read the following topic and then do a quick planning. Remember, brainstorming, organizing your ideas. At this point, you don't need to write an essay. So let's take a look at the topic. The night my faith in humanity was restored. Now it opens up a can of worms, it makes everything possible, lots of things possible, but let's take a look at the topic in greater detail. When you look at your topic, you need to look at key words, because very often the easier topics are actually quite difficult. You sometimes misread one keyword and then you don't answer the question as required, and then you don't get the marks that you actually deserve. So let's take a look at the keywords. First of all, the night, that refers to something specific. It might refer to a specific night and not nights in general. Then faith. Faith refers to trust or belief. It doesn't necessarily have to refer to religion. It is the belief. When you have faith, when my faith in people was restored, your trust in people or your belief in people. The word humanity, of course, refers to people. And last but not least, the word restored. When something is restored, it means to be brought back or repaired. So the story might be you don't have trust in people, but that specific night, your belief in people was repaired. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to quickly put together your brainstorming and kind of just jot down ideas or main ideas that you might want to write about. Welcome back, grade 12s. I trust that you could do something with the topic. You could brainstorm and think about a couple of ideas, and that it actually sparked some creativity in you. When we do a narrative essay, we can actually use a checklist. And in the activity that I'm including in this presentation, you'll see that there's a checklist included. This checklist will help you to check whether you have covered everything that needed to be covered. You can also swap with a friend to make sure that from an objective point of view, someone else can check your essay to see whether you have done what you were supposed to do. That would indeed give you better marks in the end. So, first of all, does the introduction grab your attention? Yes or no? Does it do it in a kind of a sort of a way, or is there a clear yes? Is there a when, a where, who, and what? Remember, that is when you get to the exposition. Who is involved? Where is the story set? What is the problem? And where is it going to? Then is there conflict in the rising action? Do we see conflict between two characters? Do we see a problem being addressed? Does one character have internal conflict? Because remember, conflict is not only about external conflict, and I'm not talking about a fight taking place, a physical one. Remember, in your essay, you will have a fight with words. But it could also be internal conflict, where a character has a problem in his situation. For example, he would very much like to study after school, but his parents doesn't have the money to send him to school. And all his other friends are going to university, only he doesn't. That would come to some external conflict, but definitely internal conflict, where he has to fight within himself to convince himself that he can actually get somewhere and he might be able to study. Then is there a clear climax? Right before he thinks this is the end and nothing's going to happen and he won't be able to make his dreams come true, somebody comes forward and he offers him a bursary, or he wins a competition that he has taken part in, and that gives him the money to go and study. Then has the problem been solved? And indeed, as I've indicated now, then we get to the descriptive essay. A descriptive essay describes a person, a memory, a situation, a place, an experience, and it can even describe an object. A description is often used more to create atmosphere and mood. Do you see how you incorporate the description in a narrative essay, for example? You can use figures of speech and descriptors like adjectives and adverbs, in moderation, of course, to create a powerful image of what you are describing. The danger of a descriptive essay is that you use too many adjectives and adverbs, and then it becomes like too sweet, like over-described, and that makes it boring or unbelievable. You must, in a descriptive essay, create a picture in words using adjectives and adverbs. To the right, you'll see the sight, the smell, the taste, the sound, the touch. So you need to use your senses in your descriptive essay. Use simple language. It's like dressing up and then putting all your jewelry on. It will look excessive, like too much. Take off some. Delete some, and that is where we refer to things like tautology or redundancy, where things are just too much. Use images of sight, sound, hearing, taste, and touch to make the text more interesting. You should show rather than tell. In this instance, one idea is described in a way of telling. So let's read it. I heard footsteps creeping behind me, and it made the whole situation scarier. You get the footsteps? They are creeping behind you. And it made the whole situation scarier. If you show, now that's the same idea, but you use different words, better vocabulary, and you create some suspense. The crunching of the gravel becomes louder, or became louder, or was becoming louder. The sound accelerated, in other words, made it faster, the already rapid pounding of my heart. Now you can almost put yourself in the shoes of this character or this person, because the crunching of the gravel creates suspense. It becomes louder, which means it comes closer, without having to describe that it's coming closer and, it's becoming louder. The sound accelerated, in other words, the sound of the gravel made the beating, the pounding of my heart faster. So the idea is created that the person gets more tense as the sound of the footsteps comes closer. In an instance such as this, you want the reader to feel what you did. The surprise and the sense of urgency, the fear. You will also see that the sentences might become shorter, which is like a pounding of a gun. It's like pa, 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 a little faster. It creates tension. If you think about watching a horror movie or a suspenseful movie, you'll find that sounds will come up faster, the action will become faster, and that increases the tension that you as the watcher feels. So in the same way, remember that a writer uses words rather than pictures. The writer creates that increased suspense, shorter sentences, to make you as the reader feel that tenseness and fear. When you describe the crunching that became louder through the pounding of your heart, it not only creates a powerful visual, you can see the picture of this person perhaps hiding in a cupboard somewhere or under a bed, and you hear this becoming louder. You can see the picture of the person's eyes widening. You don't have to describe it. You can see it in your mind's eye, because remember, a writer is painting pictures with words, but it also tells the reader the state of your body was in during that intense moment. I've just, case in point, explained that to you. Now let's take a look at the checklist for the descriptive essay. Do you have experience or background information on what you are describing? That is very important. Remember, your greatest tool is vocabulary. And if you don't have the right vocabulary, your essay is going to flop, unfortunately. So make sure that the topic that you have chosen, you have the vocabulary to describe. Have you written in the past or the present tense? Remember, both are also acceptable. It's not like in a narrative where you actually primarily write in the past tense. Have you created the image in the reader's mind or head using adjectives and adverbs? Remember, have you painted the picture with words? Have you made use of sensory aspects such as sight, sound, taste, smell, and touch? Remember, you don't have to cover all of them, and not in every paragraph, because that will then become too much again. But touch on certain elements of the senses. Have you used figurative speech effectively? Now, this is an important point. Do not use figures of speech just for the sake of using them. They must fit into that slot that you put them in. Sometimes we find that figures of speech or figurative language is used to impress the marker, and it's kind of plopped in out of nowhere, but it doesn't have anything to hook onto. Make sure that if you use a figure of speech, that it actually fits in to that slot that you put it in. The next essay we are covering is the reflective essay. Now, reflective essays present the writer's views, ideas, thoughts, and feelings on a topic, usually about a past they feel strongly about, and that is when we come across the word introspection. Now, intro to the inside, and it's kind of a backwards movement and an inside movement. And then spect is to inspect, to see things. So introspection would refer to something that is personal and subjective. Now, subjective refers to a singular point of view. In other words, if I write a reflective essay, I write it from my point of view. It becomes subjective. I don't take any other people's feelings into consideration. It is mine and mine alone. The ideas, thoughts, or feelings expressed should reveal sincerity and personal involvement. Honesty, extremely important in this type of essay. The writer could, for example, reflect on hopes and dreams. Remember, write about what you know, have experienced, or observed. Include your thoughts, feelings, and reflections. Use interesting words, figurative language that recreate feelings and experiences of yourself. You may use the flashback technique. Your essay begins in the present tense. It makes a reference to events or experiences written in the past tense and then returns to the present tense. An example of an introductory paragraph for a reflective essay might be the moment of truth. And this is your introductory paragraph. Everyone has that one moment which changes one's life. A moment that you wish had never happened. A moment that you cannot avoid or escape. The moment of truth. So reflective comes from the word to reflect. And as a verb, reflect means to think deeply or carefully about something. Another synonym could be to consider, to study, to contemplate, or to dwell on. Reflect also suggests unhurried consideration of something recalled to the mind. Now, it's all good description of to reflect on something. Something has happened and you reflect on it. How did you feel? How did it affect you? How did it affect your family? And then afterwards, what did you learn? What did you take from this specific experience or event? As an adjective, the word reflective means to be deeply or seriously thoughtful, contemplative, meditative, pensive, or broody about something. Thus, reflective writing is jotting down your responses to experiences, opinions, events, or new information. Discussing your response to thoughts and feelings. Reflective. Remember, intro. Exploring your learning. What did you learn from this experience? And then also it gives an opportunity for self-knowledge, to gain more self-knowledge. In an argumentative essay, now we're moving on to the argumentative one, the writer has a specific opinion or viewpoint and argues to defend or motivate his or her position. This is also a subjective essay in which the writer tries to convince or persuade the reader to share his or her point of view. The writer's opinion about the topic must be clear throughout the essay with evidence, and this is where the Peel method comes into play. Let's just remind ourselves what Peel refers to make a point, give an example, explain, and then link it to the topic. It lists and explains the reason for the choice made. In other words, why do you agree with a statement? And then give reasons for it. You write the argumentative essay in the present tense. You must begin your essay by stating your opinion or your point of view on the topic in the introduction. But you are not going to say, yes, I agree with the statement. That is not your introductory sentence. No, I don't agree with this topic. Let's say your essay is about saving the planet. You are not going to say, in this essay, I'm going to show you why I agree with the statement that we must save the planet. Your introduction should be so strong that people will sit up and read on. It's like when you give a speech and your statement kind of shocks people awake into paying attention. Use persuasive language to convince the reader to see your point of view. You need to include facts, statistics, examples, or even personal experiences. Remember that statistics doesn't have to necessarily come from resources. A resource could also be a person that you interviewed, and the statistics would refer to that. You could interview 3 different people from 3 different generations, and that would also refer to statistics. When ending the essay, you need to use a strong conclusion that clearly and convincingly states your opinion. So you'll see the argumentative essay is very strong, to the point, but you must never waver from it. So you need to keep a clear idea of what your opinions are. You may repeat the same idea given in your introduction, but it must be written in a different way. Otherwise, it becomes really boring. And who wants boring? If I read something that's boring, I just kind of close the book and don't read on. And when you write, you want to entice a reader to read right to the end. The last one is the discursive essay. And the objective here is to avoid personal pronouns, like the one that you would use in an argumentative essay. The personal pronouns I, me, and we, you would kind of avoid emotions. You would write in the third person, he, she. The tense would be in the present tense. The writer may give an indication of his or her opinion at the end of the essay, but this should only be done in the conclusion. So you may add your opinion, but the bigger bulk of your essay should be factual. The writer should present both sides of the argument in a balanced and impartial way. For example, the advantages and the disadvantages of something. You need to give reasons to support each view. In other words, you need to give links. And for that, you would use words such as however, therefore, this shows, so, etc. to connect reasons to your views. For example, if you look at the topic, technology has improved our lives. Some people believe that technology is bad, whilst others believe that it is fantastic. However, everyone must agree that it is hard to imagine the world without it. Technology cannot be blamed for what goes wrong in the world. We should rather blame the people who use it badly. Now, I'm sure just by the introduction, your brain has already started turning over to find your opinion, first of all, but then also to link it to how it could be disadvantages. Let's take a look at the checklist for the argumentative essay. Have you expressed your view in an original manner? Have you validated your view? Validated would mean, have you given reasons for your view with reasons that prove it? Have you written in the present tense and used linking words such as however, furthermore, on the other hand, if you would like to use that one? Did you make use of emotive language but not in a rude manner? Did you summarize your viewpoint and restate this in your conclusion? Remember, this is the checklist for the argumentative essay. It has a singular point of view. The discursive essay, on the other hand, have you presented both sides of the argument? You see how it's different. Have you used linking words to connect the thought process? Linking words, however, in addition to, on the other hand. Have you written in the present tense? Did you write in the third person? Did you state both views and concluded by stating yours? It's also very important not to introduce a new idea in the conclusion. Remember, your view would just be an elaboration of what you have discussed in your introduction and your body of your essay. Now, visual stimuli would refer to a picture that you may interpret in any way you view it. So you look at the picture, and what jumps out at you, you can focus on. You may choose to write on any essay genre as long as the visual allows you to do that. You may interpret the image either literally or figuratively. Literally, what you see is what you get. Or figuratively, it represents something else. Your response must be linked to the picture, though. So you can use any genre you like, you can interpret it any way you like, and you can focus on a specific element in the picture as well. But there must be a link between your essay, contents, and the picture. You should give the response a suitable title. Let's take a look at hints for choosing an essay topic specifically with reference to the visual stimuli. Focus on the setting and any relationship that may exist in the image. Now, relationship is if there are two characters in the picture, what does their body language and facial expression tell you? How are they positioned? What is the setting of that specific picture? More importantly, avoid scripting pre-prepared responses and try to make it fit into your given topic. Be creative and attract the attention of the reader. Finally, keep it short and simple, or the KISS method. Now, there are some advantages and some disadvantages to the response to a picture. An advantage is it offers a visual stimulus. A visual stimulus, that is, you look at the picture and some idea or thought pops up in your head that might get the creative juices flowing. You may interpret the picture any way you like, which gives you freedom. Of course, you can also choose any genre you like. You do not have to describe everything in the picture. You may focus on parts of it. That is also okay. You can adapt the essay, in other words, change it a little to the type of essay that you write best. Because remember, some people are good at telling stories. Some are very good at giving facts. Some are very good at describing things in detail because they are intuitive. But in this case, you can write any type of essay. And by the way, when you write your task 3, you don't have to stick to a narrative essay or an argumentative essay or a discursive essay. There will be elements of all of them in any one of the essays that you write. Just remember that there should be a clear link between your picture and the content of your essay. That is of so much importance. Now I want you to study that picture. And first of all, I want you to write down what you see. Quickly write down what you see and state the obvious. We often think that we need to interpret directly. We don't have to. What do you see? And do not only focus on the 2 characters in front. Just write it down. Next, add descriptive words. Now, I know the picture is not in color. You must practice because you won't see pictures in color in your exam papers either. So add descriptive words. How would you describe the facial expression of each of the characters? You can also focus on the picture above the 2 characters because that is in direct contrast to what the 2 characters in the front are doing. You can give names to the characters. Name them. Give them a history. Give them a background. You can describe each one of them. You can even decide what they do for a living. Are they related in any way, or are they just stuck on a train or stuck in a waiting room somewhere? What is their relationship? Is it brother or sister? Is it husband and wife? Is it 2 strangers who just happen to sit next to one another? Their reaction to each other would be totally different than if they knew one another. Where is this scene situated? You need to look at some clues given. Now, I've already given you a couple of clues, but you can decide where the story is set. Does the picture reflect a problem in society? Just look downwards and you will find it. So let's go through the writing process again. First of all, you brainstorm. Then you analyze your ideas. Then you arrange your ideas in paragraphs. Then you write your essay. Then you proofread and edit your essay. Now I want to go back to the previous picture. Let's just recap quickly. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to just mince out a couple of thoughts and ideas. Use your process to put together a planning for this picture. And I give you another, I suppose 5 minutes should be enough. Let's get started. Welcome back. I trust that you could write a couple of things, a couple of notes and ideas. Just a recap quickly. Remember, brainstorm first, analyze your ideas, arrange your ideas in paragraphs, then write your essay, finally proofread and edit your essay, and then you can write your final one. Let's take a look at this picture. Now, it actually looks like quite a boring picture, to be honest. What do I see? Oh, I see a vase. It's made of glass. It's very shiny. I see flowers. But it creates a mood of sadness almost, because these are not fresh roses, they like dying. The petals are falling one by one. So for me, it already creates a gloomy mood. You won't really write a happy essay based on this. Now, when we look at the picture, we call them withered flowers. In other words, they are dying. It could be interpreted literally or figuratively. The dominant, in other words, the most important image in this picture is the dried or the withered flowers in the vase. They've died. Your topic and your essay will be influenced by this image. Possible themes might include, if you write on a figurative level, moral decay, degeneration, death, loss of a relationship, the end of a relationship, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a partner. Fallibility is when you acknowledge your shortcomings. Fragility of human life, how fragile human life is. It is very short, like flowers in a vase. They're beautiful, they're pretty for a little while, and then slowly the leaves start falling. It could refer to a breakdown in relationships, or it can also refer to environmental issues, and that is where your factual essays, your discursive essays, or your argumentative essays may come in. When you get your essay together, you write down a few ideas on each topic. I love to say that you choose at least 2 topics from a list. And the main reason for that is sometimes you choose a topic because it seems easier, more straightforward, something that you can quickly just write a couple of things on. But then at some point, your ideas just stop. It's like you hit a brick wall. Especially if you are writing against time. Remember, your essays are all limited to a specific time span. Like paper 3, you've only got your 2.5 hours to write your 3 different texts. So your time is limited. You must manage your time very well. And when you do task 2, task 3, you have a limited time in which to complete that task. So you need to be very sure that you write down your important information and that you have that you write the required number of words, 250 to 300 words, on the topic without repeating yourself. Underline all the key words in the chosen topic to ensure that you do not miss important information. Now back to the 2 topics. One of the topics you will feel you've hit a brick wall. The other one, for some or other odd reason, will allow you to expand your ideas. It's like little light switches, flashes in your mind. And that is the one that you might want to write about. Choose a topic that you fully understand. If you are uncertain about what the topic requires from you, then you should not attempt to write it. So if there's one word or one idea in that essay that you don't quite get, you can guess, but you're not very sure, rather steer away from it. This includes the vocabulary in the topic, like we have discussed before. Choose a topic that interests you. There's nothing worse than writing about something that you have no interest in. And I can assure you, every topic that you are given will allow you to interpret it with content, prior knowledge that you have. If you are a lover of science or geography or even history, then you incorporate that in your essay. Generally, if you choose a topic that is interesting to you, then your reader will find it interesting too. If your essay requires knowledge, choose a topic about which you have sufficient information. Make sure you select a subject that you can develop with enough details. Now, I've made a quick reference to history and I haven't mentioned economics, but you can include that, business economics. Many of you want to be entrepreneurs, so you take a huge interest in that. You can use any of your other subjects and use some of the content, the information that you gained from that specific topic or subject, and incorporate that in your essay. That is what we call learning across the curriculum, where we take knowledge from previous or other areas and we incorporate it in what we already know. And that is your success recipe. After you've picked your topic, don't be afraid to change it if it isn't working out, and do that sooner or later. We would rather you write a good essay than stick to a topic that is a poor choice. Use fresh and original images and descriptive words. Avoid using inflated vocabulary. Now, I want to stop there for a minute. Sometimes you use big words that you might have heard someone influential using before. And you might, by chance, use it in the right situation or the right context, but more often than not, you use the wrong word in the wrong setting. So you want to impress the reader, or the marker in this instance, with your vocabulary, but you've used it wrong. It obscures the meaning, first of all, and they would actually think, yeah, this person just wanted to impress. It may seem forced and not fit the context of the topic. Let's refer to register, style, and tone. Now, formal register, you do not use contractions. In other words, won't will not be written, but you will write will not. Can't, cannot, make sure that your spelling is correct. It's, it is, ain't, apart from the fact that it's a horrendous word to use, are not or is not. Do not use language that you would use in short cell phone messages, such as WhatsApp or Snapchat or whatever platform you use. So LOL, for example, will not be accepted. Do not use slang. Things like gonna, wanna, bro, especially in your essay. It might be forgiven if you use one or two examples of that in a dialogue, in your transactional texts, but most definitely not in an essay. Do not use profanities. A profanity is a swear word. Swear words are not appropriate in any setting, not for formal writing and not for informal writing either. Anything that you write down that stays there for other people to see, for yonks to come, It's not appropriate. Not in writing, not in speaking, as a matter of fact. Now we come to a very important aspect. Editing and proofreading. Make sure that you kept to the topic. Correct errors neatly by drawing a single line through the error and writing the correct word above it. Sometimes we get ink happy and you want to make sure that people see that you have actually changed that word or corrected it. And then it's like a grade 1 going to town on a coloring a picture. And you scratch it out. It's unnecessary. A clear line through it and the correct word above will suffice. Remember that all editing must be done in blue ink and not in pencil like you would often do in the classroom. If you have written a first draft, remember to indicate it clearly or draw a line through the first draft. There's nothing worse than having marked a first draft and it has not been indicated. And when you turn the page, there is the final product and you have to mark it again. Please refrain from that. Make sure that you indicate it as a first draft, and better yet, draw a line through it to indicate that it should not be marked. When you decide on a topic, highlight the keywords to ensure that you respond fully to the question. And I actually want to stop there for a moment and emphasize the highlight. I know that there are many examiners and teachers who tell you that it's not allowed to use highlighters, especially on your question paper, not your answer sheet. I'm talking about your question paper. And they might crucify me for it, but I want to emphasize that your question paper, your task that you get with the topics that you have to write on, is a working document. In other words, you need to pull it apart. And how else can you do that? By using a highlighter, using colored pens or pencils to underline the keywords, to make sure that you understand what you are reading. This is so important, and not only with paper 3, all of your papers. You need to engage with that document so that you can unpack the questions, so to speak. And it's not for anyone else. It is only for you. It is beneficial for you, because then you will be focused when you answer the question. I want to emphasize that planning is not for the teacher or for the marker. Planning is for you. So if you ask the question, should there be planning? Then I actually want to shake you a little bit. Planning is not for the marker. Planning is for you. You are planning to create a work of art. If you don't plan it, it'll most probably fail. And then there is the huge faux pas. The learner writes the essay and it's beautiful and everything. And then after that, you do a planning. I repeat, planning is for you. It is not for the marker or for the teacher to see. It is for you to make sure that you work in an organized fashion. Remember the process we have been talking about all this time. In conclusion, never force an existing essay onto the topic. I know some of you feel uncomfortable to write. Remember, it's only the first term. So you would be totally surprised if you put in time and effort how your writing will improve from task 3 to your final exam paper 3 essay. But only if you put in the effort. And the secret to success would be practice, practice, practice. you need to look at previous exam papers and analyze other topics and analyze and plan, brainstorm. Remember, it's like getting fit for athletics or for soccer or for rugby or for netball, whatever takes your fancy. You can't run onto a sports field not having become fit and practiced a lot. You need to do the same when you write your essays. It's not something that just happens. It is something that you can practice. And only then will you realize what you are really, really good at. But sometimes we get candidates who actually memorize an essay that they find really, really good. And then they kind of change it and force it into another topic if their topic doesn't come up. Please don't do that. Be creative and original. And I want to emphasize that teachers do watch television sometimes. They do have Netflix. They do read. So be sure that you don't rehash an existing story. People love to retell a story of a movie that they had seen, and they hand it over as an original piece of writing. It is really, really boring, and it's not the time wasted. It's not worth it. So be creative and be original. Challenge yourself for once. Get a good night's sleep before the day you write. Now, I know sometimes with task 3, you are given the opportunity to do some research and try out some brainstorming ideas. But on the day that you have to write the final task, it is under exam conditions. So you need to be wide awake and ready. And enjoy the process. You know, all the other papers you need to spend a lot of time on studying. This is one paper that if you practice from the get-go and you give your brain opportunities to become more creative, you can actually get very good marks for a little effort that you put in. It is not something that you can cram overnight and be ready for the next day. So just enjoy the process. It is your opportunity to make yourself heard. I would like to thank you for watching this lesson. Please remember to be safe and to practice, practice, practice.